Hey everyone, my name is Jessica, and I am going to preface this video by saying that I am not a photography expert. However, I did pick up a new camera recently that I've been wanting to talk about, which is the Kodak Ektar H35. It's a half-frame analog camera, which has been pretty popular on the internet, and I wanted to talk about my experience with it as a beginner because it is a camera marketed towards beginners in analog photography. And I have noticed a growing trend in analog/film photography on the internet, with people posting film dumps from their latest holiday or their night out with their friends on their Instagram feeds. It really does give photos this nice vintage effect, and the imperfections in film really appeals to me for several reasons. One being I'm trying to be more mindful with the way I use my phones and the amount of time I spend looking at screens. And I feel like film photography can really help you be more present in the moment. And two, it's a really artistic medium. I can tell you, for example, that some of my favorite cosplay photos have been those that I've taken with film cameras because I just think it makes the characters in the photos, in the settings, come to life a little bit more. And yes, this is a photo of me as Billy the Puppet from the Saw franchise on Halloween night. Again, one of my favorite cosplay photos I've ever taken. Oh, and after I talk about this camera, I will also be showing you some of the photos that I took for my very first roll. You can see all the mistakes that I made there and some of the good photos that came out from it as well. So when it comes to my thoughts on the Ektar H35, it's really generally been a positive experience, but a lot of this depends on the reasons why I chose this camera. I feel like whenever you're looking for reviews of something, it can be so overwhelming trying to wade through the information, but a good place to start is always to ask yourself, what are you going to use it for? So for me, I wanted to use this as a photo journal in my everyday life, like I said, as a means to be more present, but also to have fun with and capture some memories with my friends. So my criteria was that I wanted something that was easy to use, easy to carry around, and relatively cheap because, like I said, I'm a complete beginner and I didn't want to waste my money on something expensive that I wouldn't enjoy or wouldn't use very well. So when it comes to my first criteria, is it easy to use? My answer is resoundingly yes. It's a point and shoot camera, which means all you have to do is literally point to your subject and click the button to shoot your photo. You can't manually adjust any settings such as aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, and all you have to do is wind this little thing here at the back of the camera until you hear a click, and then that's it. You're ready to take your photo. There's a little viewfinder here which you can use to get your shot ready. I've heard some people say that it's a little bit difficult to get your frame lined up in the viewfinder, which I kind of understand, but for me, I'm really not looking for perfection when I'm using this camera and when I'm taking photos. But I do understand because your results might be a little bit shifted to the left or to the right, and it might not be exactly the way that you imagined it would come out in the viewfinder. The only adjustable setting that this camera has is the little flash knob here, so you can turn on the flash here, and then you get a little red light at the back which tells you that the flash is on. So it's best to use the flash whenever you're in any indoor scenario, even when it's bright outside. You might think that if you are in a generally well-lit room, even in broad daylight with sunlight coming through the windows, that you're fine. But let me tell you, you are not. I had so many photos that were completely pitch black or so washed out in shadows that you could barely see anything. So that's something that I definitely learned from my first try with this. Now I'm gonna say that a lot of the problems that came out of my first roll was that I am not the best person at loading film into a camera like this because I lack this thing some people call patience, and I'm not the most delicate person when I'm trying to do something, so that resulted in me kind of having to take out the roll, put it back in, try to like readjust it into the little winding mechanism. And I'm not going to try to teach you how to load your film properly. I can just say that YouTube is a great resource when you're watching people who actually know what they're doing with it. And I have gotten a little bit better with practice, so it is something that takes time. It takes getting used to. It's just part of the process, I feel. But again, the great thing with this camera is that you do get so many frames, so losing some due to technical mistakes or because you are still learning and working your way through this camera, it really doesn't matter as much. It really feels like it was made for people to make mistakes on and beginners to learn from, which I really like. Now, there are some negatives that come with this, but before we get into that, could I please ask you, if you are enjoying this video so far, please do drop me a like and subscribe to my channel. It would really help me out. And I'd actually also really like to know if you've tried the Kodak Ektar H35. What are your thoughts on it? Are you enjoying it so far? Are you less than excited about it? And if you haven't used this camera yet, is this something on your radar? Is this something that you're interested in at all, or is it just not for you? Because I've definitely seen a lot of reviews who have said that this is definitely not for them, but I'm here to share you just my experience. So onto the negatives, because I do have some problems with this camera. It is definitely not perfect. As you might recall, my last criteria was that I wanted something relatively cheap, which this camera certainly is. It came at about £50 where I'm from. I live in London, and that was the retail price I found online. Again, for me, that was a decent price because you do get double the amount of exposures. But one of the main problems I have with this is that it is made of plastic, which obviously is cheaper to make, but also is bad for the environment and makes it more fragile. Even though it is lightweight and portable and you can pop it in anywhere, I would recommend you be cautious of where you put it, because even when I'm putting it in my regular tote bag, for example, and if I suddenly go to the grocery store, I have to be really careful about where it sits, because anything that is remotely heavy could potentially break it. Yes, it feels like it could break at any moment. I would recommend you get some form of a hard case to put it in. I think that would feel so much more secure. And I might even think about doing that, because even sometimes when I'm on the tube, I end up having to like hold my bag and like hug it real tight to protect it, because I don't want my camera to just be crushed by someone, which I really feel like it could. I've also read reviews of people saying that the winding mechanism feels like it is so flimsy, and especially when you're rolling the film back at the end, when you finish your roll and you're trying to get it back in the canister. I had some problems with this where I actually did scratch the film as I was rolling it back because I didn't realize I wasn't doing it properly. I couldn't remember what I did, but you could actually see some of the scratches that it left on my photos. That's really all of the problems that I do have with this camera. Everything else I feel like is worth it for the price point and for the experience that it's given me. So enough of me talking for now. I will let you be the judge of how well this camera has performed in my hands, which is a bit of a scary thought, but I will be showing you the photos from my very first roll that I used with this camera. Hope you enjoy. So that's the video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked my photos, please do let me know in the comments, and let me know if you'd like me to do more photography videos in the future. I have a couple of ideas for videos on maybe cosplay photography, because that's something I do a little bit of, but if you'd like to see more photos from this camera, I have a black and white film stock in there right now, so I'm really looking forward to see how those come out. And if you haven't already, please do like and subscribe to this channel, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!